2016, Trump elected as a president of America. 2020 election will on the way. But in 2020, one major change is entry of pandemic. Coronavirus infected first in China and then spread all over the world. America is the top one country which hit back by that pandemic on huge scale. More than 15 lakh cases, more than 1 lakh death is there. But still, American election process is on the way. On today, my special guest, Tina Hahn. Tina Hahn is a presidential election candidate for America 2020 election. Tina Hahn is the one of candidate of presidential election. Especially, she is a openly first female transgender who is fighting that election. It's our pleasure she joining me in my special conversation. Welcome, Tina. How are you?
Doing good. Yourself?
I'm fine. Tina, we drive this conversation in two different parts. In one, we discuss a pandemic and US, and in second, we discuss presidential election and you. Tina, can you draw your lines and focus on the issue why America is on the top list of COVID-19 patients and the death too? Also share your view what going on, how your country is affecting due to that pandemic.
I've driven through many states here just recently, going to the White House. Now I'm on my way back to Oregon. There are several states that are still on extreme lockdown right now. COVID is horrible. I drove through New Mexico, for example, and in New Mexico, you cannot take any side shots to get off the freeway to go into any of the cities. They've got them all blockaded off because of the pandemic being so bad.
Okay.
Other states are in lockdown and are trying to reopen, but they're finding out that when they're reopening, that they're getting hit with a whiplash effect from the COVID, and they're going through a second run of COVID in their areas. It has gotten so bad that some of the states are going back into lockdown that have opened up. It's gotten so bad that a lot of these lockdowns that they were trying to open, they're reconsidering on some of those. We're getting more people that are being hit with this pandemic, more people that are dying from it, and the federal government in and of itself is responding, but they're not responding fast enough, and they're not doing what's necessary to help the people. The death toll is going higher because people are not maintaining social distancing. They're not wearing face masks as they need to. These are key parts to being able to stop this pandemic. They're also finding out new strains of this pandemic are coming out. We now have approximately 13 different strains of it because of people not maintaining social distancing, not keeping things cleaned up properly, not going through and doing what they need to avoid this, and staying in lockdown as necessary.
Okay. Can you give me the sense what going on research and vaccine? Is there any progress in vaccine? Is it?
They are doing a lot of research in the COVID situation, and they are coming close to getting a cure, but they're saying that it's going to more than likely be out by the end of the year, which is approximately another 6 months away. During this course of time, however, a lot more people are going to wind up dying from this virus, and they're not going to be able to contain it as easily as they thought. The government is also going into a second plan of stimulus checks to try and help the people out. They're going to be issuing debit cards for the people, and they're going to start out with a $2,000 stimulus.
Each and every person?
Do what?
For $2,000 for everyone, or only or jobless persons?
for every person in the United States. Yeah,
Okay.
they're going to be doing a $2,000 initial stimulus, and then after that, every month they're going to be giving the populace $1,000 per person.
Okay.
To
After.
help the system to try and boost the economy. Now, a lot of people are out of work either because they've got the virus or because their employers have been shut down due to the lockdowns. A lot of your mom and pop businesses are closing because of it. Your smaller businesses are going out of business. Even several of our major industries are going out of business because of not being able to keep up with what's going on, not having the income coming in, not being able to put the money out to try and stay open. A lot of them are going to internet access only, or you order online and then you go pick it up in person.
Tina, all over the world, economy very hit badly due to that pandemic. What is the situation in America? And still, you think bloodbath will goes in on the front of jobs and on the fronts of business also?
It is affecting everybody in our country. Everybody from the migrant workers to the illegal aliens to the natural people that are born here in our country.
Okay.
Everybody in our country is being affected by this on every level. It's not being mainly the rich or the poor. It's every level in our country that's being affected by this.
Okay. As in India, we are in complete lockdown. Here, all the daily operations are just closed. What in Americas goes? Is it complete lockdown? Is there any option to for business? What your assessment? What will you please flash the light on the lockdown in America?
Yes, they are. And what's going on with that? We are under lockdown, depending on what state you're in and what the governors of those states have enacted as far as their lockdown laws go. Then you've got the people, the populace in and of itself that's getting tired of being in lockdown. In our country, with it being so big and so many people here, I know it's not as big as some countries populace-wise, but we do have a large population. Trying to control every one of them, unless you put them under martial law, is something that's very hard to do. Now, for instance, like the state of Utah, when you go into Utah, they have police checkpoints there where they're testing you for COVID to find out whether or not you have it. If you have it, you're not allowed to enter their state. If you don't have it, you can go into their state, but they're kind of quarantining you for 14 days, and then you're allowed to be out in the populace as long as you wear a face mask. Other parts of the country, like along the beaches and that, they have large populations. They're majorly limited. They communicate with each other. They feel like they have they don't understand the aspect of the cup when critical the live in all parts of the country. They're trying to get some of the money they just to get out of these large and now they're getting to be able to they're getting a subject third way because we're just
Tina, is your network is poor connectivity? Visuals are not going.
We are starting to see it affecting every nation in the world.
That's
and seeing how it's affecting all the other nations as well as ours. You know, it started in Wuhan and it came to the United States back in November. They did not, our government didn't start announcing that there was a problem until February of this year. They had roughly 4 months that they could have worked on doing things to prevent this, getting things lined up to prevent this, and put a better stop to it. But they didn't take action soon enough. President Trump was informed by the military President Trump was informed by the World Health Organization.
In February, President Trump is in India. He was attend one huge program in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, and the same time America and the world is on the way of pandemic.
Yes. And the whole thing is they should have taken action sooner, being notified by the World Health Organization. They didn't step up in our country until February to start enacting anything. And then they said, okay, we advise that you have these lockdowns. We advise that people do social distancing, but they didn't make it a requirement. They have not made it a requirement of any state or any county in our country to go into lockdown. That had to come from our individual governors of each state. When those governors started enacting it, they were told, okay, after people get this, they'll start getting better in 14 days. That didn't happen. So now governors who had a 30-day lockdown in place to try and prevent this and help it out are getting sued by the people of their counties and their states because they're violating state law because they didn't get authorization from their state representative. They didn't get authorization from their congressman. They didn't get authorization from their state senates and councils. And because they extended the lockdown, they're now starting to get sued for it. And they're even wanting to sue the federal government because the federal government didn't enact a strict military form of lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And our country has been floundering with the idea, okay, the lockdown is affecting the economy, the lockdown is affecting people's lives, but yet they're not seeing the bigger side of it. People are dying from this, and they should have actually said, okay, straight across the board, we're making it a law, we're in lockdown for 30 days, this is the way it is. They didn't do that. Instead, they said, we're advising that you go into lockdown. They didn't make it a requirement, but they did start shutting down businesses saying, okay, you're this kind of business, you can't operate because people can get sick.
Yeah, President Trump also...
They locked down restaurants.
Here we are moving from one section to another. Now we are span our discussion on the on issue of 2020 presidential election. Tina, can you flash the light? What is the Dump Trump 2020 convoy of dissidents?
The convoy of dissidents is a way to try and rally people together, to go from every state, to get everybody together that has a problem with Donald Trump and the way he's been handling things in the country. Our goal, we feel, is not to enhance what Donald Trump has been doing, because Donald Trump and his administration has failed this country on so many levels, let people down on so many levels, not just with COVID, but with our economy, with his laws, things that he's making. It's all about money that he can bring into the country and not about the people. It's about the big business that he can deal with so that him and his cronies make money, and the people are being made to suffer for that. That's not something that we can stand in our country. We have constitutional rights. We have constitutional freedoms that have been enacted. We have human rights and human freedoms. But all of those are being locked down and locked up by the Trump administration in an effort to make them more money and not worry about the people. For instance, they're trying to shut down Social Security. We have a lot of elderly people. We have a lot of disabled people that rely on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to survive just day-to-day life. Yeah, it's not as much as if you had a job and they can't afford a lot, and because of that, they're suffering. Now they're wanting to take money away from them. They're wanting to say, okay, we don't care that you're on Social Security, we don't care that you're on Medicare, we're going to shut those programs down. And they're working every way possible to remove those programs, those protections for the elderly and the disabled. I have 2 autistic children. They require special help that is extremely costly. And getting them their medical help without having Medicare or Medicaid in place for them is tough to do because there's things on those programs that you can't get on average health care. If you have a standard health plan, you can't get those things unless you're rich. And you've got elderly and disabled people that are on that rely on that, and you're trying to take it away. That's not going to go good. That's going to meet millions of people at risk of their health, at risk of having a place to live, because a lot of those people rely on that for being in nursing homes. They rely on it for being able to pay their rent. And they can't do that when they're not able to work. And they don't have any form of income like that. Therefore, we've had a lot of people having to go out on the streets. Because of our health care program, we've got a whole lot of homeless people on the streets that aren't getting the mental health they need. They're not getting the health care that they need. They're not getting help getting into shelters so that they have a place to live. And then they're being told, no, we can't give you a job because you don't have a place to live. You don't have an address. You're living on the streets. And then we make it even tougher on them by saying, okay, all these public facilities, like restaurants, gas stations, and things like that, parks, you can't go use the restrooms there because you're not a paying customer. So they have nowhere to clean up. They can't get clean. They can't look like they wash and take care of themselves. And a lot of the homeless population out there is floundering because they can't get a job because they don't have an address. They can't go into places because they stink and they don't look good. And so it's only escalating the issues. It's causing more problems nationwide. And instead of working on a cure for this and working on getting them the health care they need, the mental health that they need, we're saying, okay, we don't care about you.
Election and money is a equation. In America or US presidential election, you have a pattern that you will raise money from voter. What your plan or why you think that voter will pay for your campaign?
With my specific election, I've been making it about the people, not about the money. Your campaign and running for president should never be about the money. It should be what you can do for the people. What can you do to help the citizens of your country? And what can you do to help the citizens of other countries? It should be something that you focus on, not only on a national level, but a worldwide level. Money is necessary to do things, yes, but it is not something that is needed to run a campaign. I have ran my campaign strictly on the money that I have made from driving for Lyft and Uber.
Oh,
I'm a Lyft Uber driver.
that's great.
That's how I funded my
That sounds
campaign.
great.
And that's what gets me out there to be able to talk to the people. Now, me and my wife, we decided, okay, we're going to take our kids on a history lesson, go across country, do my campaign at the same time, get out and talk to people, and also teach the kids about the history of the different states in our country. That's what we're in the process of doing right now. I'm in the state of Idaho right now, on our way back to Oregon from Washington, D.C. As we've gone to each of these states, we've been seeing how COVID has been we were going state to state, teaching our kids the history of each state, finding out how different things have affected the different areas, such as slavery in the past, Hurricane Katrina, natural disasters like some of the earthquakes and volcanic issues that we've had in our country. I've learned a lot about how the government has let down the people. People in New Orleans are still recovering from Hurricane Katrina. Businesses have not reopened. People have not moved back into the area like they had to move out of it. That has crippled their economy, but the government's not stepping up saying, okay, we know this happened. We're going to help you out and help build it back up. They've just let them flounder and trying to figure out how to do it on their own. Different areas that have been affected by earthquakes, like California, that the government helped out for a short time, but then turned around and said, okay, we're not going to help anymore. They're not following through with actually helping the people and rebuilding what has been destroyed because they're protecting their business, they're protecting their money. They're saying, okay, we'll help out for a little bit of time, but people need to step up and do the rest of it. They're not saying, okay, we realize there's an issue here, let's actually do something about it. They're saying, we'll give you a little bit of help, and the rest is up to you.
All over the world, election and social media are just equivalent. Just before a few days, Twitter fact-checked a tweet made by Donald Trump, President Trump. So, in 2016, in US election and Brexit, Facebook and Cambridge Analytica done a damage. Story done by Guardian reporter Carol Cadwallader flashed light on that story, and all over the world discussion was started about is social media have role in political election or also affecting political elections. Now in 2020, a same President Trump just rampant on social media platforms. So what do you think social media and 2020 presidential election, how it impact?
Yes, I do. I have seen what Trump is noticing on Twitter. On Facebook, Twitter, and a couple of the other major multimedia outlets, or social media outlets, if you will, anytime you post something on there that's election oriented, they do a fact check on it. On my campaign website, for instance, I have posted a couple things that other people have sent me and not looked into it myself. And they said, okay, this is false. So we're going to post on here that you posted false stuff. Okay, Mr. Trump didn't do that when he posted something on Twitter, and they fact-checked it and came back and said, no, this is false. Sometimes it's the social media site saying, okay, we're supporting this candidate over this candidate. Other times it's actual fact. This is actually just a fact-based thing. But Mr. Trump is upset because he got fact-checked, and he doesn't want to step up and say, okay, I made a mistake, I didn't know this was wrong, but I posted this. Instead, he just posted it, and they said, okay, this is false. And now he's mad about that. He's wanting to stop them from being able to do that.
In America, voter percentage of American voters and Indian voters, Indian Americans are in huge numbers, more than 4 millions. So what do you think, how you was plan or how you will planning for to communicate with Indian voters?
Well, I know we have a lot of Indian workers here, and a lot of them are feeling the bite of COVID-19 as well, and how bad it has affected. Several of them are out of work. I don't think that we're doing enough to help all the people that are in our country. I think some of the people are being left out, the Indian worker being one of them, not getting some of this assistance for COVID that they should be getting, and I think that's wrong. The way I look at it, if you work in our country, if you live in our country, you need to be given the same things that the citizens here are being given because you are part of our country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that they're doing what they need to do to provide proper health care for the Indian worker as well as the immigrant worker. I think all of this aspect needs to be taken into account because the Indian worker and the immigrant workers all provide a necessary business in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Without them, we would not be able to operate a lot of our businesses. And I think that's wrong that we're letting them down in this situation when we should be boosting them and supporting them at the same time. And we know they have families in other countries that are being not given the help they need by their country. If we actually care about our workers, we should be turning around and saying, okay, you and your family are important to us. What can we do to help you? And instead, we're saying, okay, yeah, you're here working.
On your election manifesto and on your website, you wrote a phrase. First female openly saying transgender. we witnessing or we observing American democracy as a world largest and superior liberal democracy. Still you think this phrase is needed on your bio? Is it impact on your election manual or election program?
I originally didn't start specifying it. That was put out there by a media channel initially, and I figured, okay, if it was going to be out there, I need to at least make it known. In our country, a lot of people don't want a woman as a president.
Okay.
Because they're afraid, oh, she's going to do what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want Donald Trump in office anymore, and they're afraid to take another guy in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I looked at it, okay, they didn't want a guy in office. They didn't want a woman in office. So why not take the best of both worlds and go with that?
Okay. Tina, it's a great pleasure to conversation with you. We are wishing our best. Thanks for connecting. Good day.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.